playoff season in full swing. Spurs traded guard Dejounte Murray to Atlanta last night for 3 first-round picks. And Danilo Gallinari, that's a nice backcourt pairing for the Hawks now with Murray and Trae Young. Nick, what'd you make of this trade?
I like it for both teams. I think this is a difference maker. I think this is a difference maker, Rick, for the Hawks. I like Dejounte Murray a lot. And I know what you're going to say. That is not just because he is a clutch client. It's because he was the only silver lining for a bad Spurs team last year. And I think he's going to help Trae Young, and it does give them a dynamic backcourt. On the flip side, the Spurs know what time it is. It's Big Vic time. They are doing, listen, it's only a 14% chance, but it's the best chance they got. They saw what Tim Duncan, a franchise changer, did for them. And now it's not only the picks they're getting from the Hawks, but a chance to be the worst team in basketball, which I think they might maybe want to be, because Wembanyama is a franchise changer. He is truly a transcendent prospect as much as one can be. And it's, again, the lottery odds have been flattened, so the best you can do is a 14% chance, but they want that 14% chance. So that was also part of this trade. I think that's pretty obvious.
I'm not going to disagree with that. I don't know that it's the first thing. Like, the reason they moved Dejounte is because they're all in on tanking for Wembanyama. I believe that where this starts is they're looking at Dejounte and saying, okay, it's going to cost us how much to keep him in San Antonio? Is he that kind of a player? And this is what San Antonio has consistently done. They do not overpay to keep guys in San Antonio. They will move them a little bit sooner rather than later. You can argue whether that's been smart over the last couple of years, but the fact of the matter is that's the way they operate. And Dejounte now becoming an all-star, and yet they were a 34-win team. I'm not going to completely hate on them, the fact that they said, we don't know that this is a max-type player, a cornerstone-type player to build around. And on the Atlanta end of things, you get a guy who is, look, Travis Schlenk has long looked at Trae Young as the next Steph Curry. This gives him somebody in the backcourt who can defend the way Klay Thompson does or did for Steph Curry. And I also believe this might be a little bit of let's get Trae off of the ball. Let's see if he can be as good as Steph moving off of the ball. And yeah, it's not Draymond being the playmaker. It's Dejounte being the playmaker. So I can see why Atlanta did it, but I can also see exactly why San Antonio did it. I mean, 3 first-round picks for Dejounte Murray.
Unprotected.
That's a pretty good bag.
No, look, I agree with that. I think Nick's right. And I think this is history repeating itself. We'll see if it turns into Big Vic, but I do think the Spurs are looking at the future and saying, hey, this is what got us that past dynasty with Tim Duncan. And I think they'd love to, for the same thing to happen with Vic Wembanyama. It's hard to say right now. But as far as the Hawks, I like it for them too, Rick, for a lot of the reasons you said. He doesn't shoot it well, Murray, but he does everything else well. Great defender. His driving ability, I think, will be a nice contrast with Trae. And like you said, it does get Trae off the ball. Take some pressure off him. He's a small guy. When he's getting the pressure that's on him physically as well as mentally can take a toll. So this will give him some relief. So great move by the Hawks. I don't think it moves the needle a lot as far as where they finish in the East. They'll improve, but I don't think they're like a contender in the East, but they will improve. Good move by them.
Oh, I think they're close to being a contender in the East. I want to talk about Spurs. Really? I'm going to throw this to Nick. Yeah, I believe in the Hawks. That acquisition feels like it's about scoring, but it's also about moving the ball. They both have great assists. But I want to talk about Greg Popovich specifically. He's been out saying he's not into tanking. He's won 5 championships. He recently won a gold medal. He's 73 years old. He's going to be 74 in January. I just don't necessarily buy the idea that the twilight of his coaching career is going to be, hey, let's do what the Magic and the Thunder did. And I know long-term that makes sense, but I feel like his own coaching skill and championship pedigree will prevent them from being the worst team in the league. I think that's an It's an odd mix to have one of the greatest coaches in NBA history end his career by tanking. That doesn't strike you as
well. I don't think that's
bizarre?
how they would. I don't think that's how they would look at it. I don't think it's tanking if you are doing your best to win games. You just have bad players. And I think it's tanking if you won't play your players the way OKC did. Hey, we have Al Horford. You might actually help us win games. Sit down. SGA, you're too good for us. Even though you're young and should be playing, you don't get to play. The Spurs now, I think Popovich can coach them hard and try to win, but they don't have enough talent. And so that's that is tanking with honor, if you will. It's doing it the right way. And I think that's clearly what they're doing, at least in my opinion.
Tanking with honor.
All right. Dejounte Murray's on the move. Could DeAndre Ayton be next? The Suns reportedly hesitant about a long-term offer for the former #1 overall pick. Woj says a sign and trade looking increasingly likely. Broussard, you surprised the Suns are ready to move on from Ayton?
Yes and no. I am surprised because, look, he's not even 24 years old yet. He's a top pick in the draft. 17 points, 10 rebounds a game. Legitimately one of the best centers in the league. Now, obviously the center position isn't as strong as it used to be, but he is one of the better centers in the league. And obviously they've had great success with him. We all know about his differences and the challenges he and Monty Williams have with one another. But that I still am surprised because of what he brings on the floor. I'm not surprised, Rick, because the Suns owner, Robert Sarver, is one of the cheapest owners in the league. All right, they're already over the salary cap without DeAndre Ayton's contract. So, look, they've had this nice little run. I could see Sarver being like, hey, we had a nice little run. You know, now that people can't rip me anymore and say I had a decade-long drought, and now he's going back to his cheapskate ways. So in that regard, it doesn't surprise me, Rick.
Yeah, Sarver's pockets are shallow, and that is certainly a factor in this. But I also believe it's the mindset of the NBA, which is everybody needs a big. They realize you need a mobile big in order to play, but you can't overpay for that big, or you're going to get in trouble. It's a little bit like running backs in the NFL. You have a team that's going to contend, you need to have a running back. You just can't pay him Ezekiel Elliott money. And so what we're looking at with Ayton is Ayton wanted the max. He wanted to get paid $30 million plus. That puts him in the Rudy Gobert category. Nelson, Clint Capella is making 18. Nikola Vucevic is making 22 in Chicago. Rudy Gobert is making 30 plus. That's where DeAndre Ayton was going. So I think it's a combination of it's going to cost us a lot, and it's going to cost us more than a big man is worth in today's NBA.
All right. Talk some James Harden now. How surprising was the beard turning down $47